My clients are amazing, man, because I always say I can always count on them to give me really good content for these videos. And I got my notebook from my last coaching call right here. And my last coaching client, um, he asked me some really good questions, and one of the questions he asked me was how does he deal with cravings? And I wanted to give you some of the tips that I gave him, because if you're trying to lose weight and you're in a calorie deficit, probably even without being in a calorie deficit, you probably deal with cravings. And oftentimes, as I tell my clients, one of the biggest reasons why diets fail is because, and let me move this notebook, it is in my way. Well, it's not in the way, I just wanted this part of the desk to be clear. I tell my clients that one of the biggest reasons why diets fail is because of hunger. So if we can avoid being hungry, we can be really successful with our diets. So how do we deal with cravings? And I have a feeling that this is a video, a more in-depth video, which I need to start doing more of these more in-depth videos. Those videos just take a lot of editing. These videos, it's like one take. I can just set the camera up and just talk about a topic. So how do you deal with cravings? Well, the first thing I told my client is you really have to identify if it's well, first he said, how do I deal with hunger? That was how he said it. He didn't say cravings, I'm sorry. He said hunger. And then I asked him, is it really hunger or is it a craving? Like, have you gone all day without eating in this? You're just starving now. Or are you in the mood for something specific? Like you're in the mood for chocolate or in the mood for potato chips. That is a craving. And the way you deal with cravings and the way you deal with hunger are the same but different. Now they're the same in identifying why you're hungry or why you have that craving. So that's the first thing I tell my clients is you got to figure out, first of all, which one is it and why. And then you work backwards to deal with it. So we said we first started with hunger. So I said, what are some of the reasons why you could be hungry? I said, well, you identify, am I always hungry at a specific time? And for a lot of people, what they'll notice is that they're hungrier at night. They go all day without thinking about food. And at the end of the day, they're starving. This oftentimes happens when people aren't eating enough throughout the course of the day. So again, you go all day, you're not really thinking about food because you're engaged in your job or whatever else you're doing. And at the end of the day, you're starving because you haven't eaten all day. So the answer is simple. And this is one of the problems for my client. He's a physician and he generally goes long hours in the day without eating. And he normally notices that he's hungrier at night and he's eating a lot of his calories at the end of the day. So I said, if that's the case, it's simple. You need to make sure that you're eating regularly throughout the course of the day. So then we talked about his plan of attack. What we're going to do is make sure we eat that breakfast, never skipping. We're never skipping any meals because skipping meals throughout the course of the day leads to you being super hungry at night and eating a good majority of your calories at the wrong time of day where it's going to be a few hours before you go to sleep. So that was the first thing. And I told him one way you'll know is if you look at how much you've eaten and you can say that you've eaten at least half of your calories within one meal at the end of the day, that tells me you're not eating enough throughout the earlier part of the day, which could be what's leading to you being hungry at night. So it's simple. You need to, if this is you, you need to eat more earlier in the day, and that oftentimes will lead to less hunger later in the day. Also, make sure you're eating things of some type of substance, protein, fiber, even some fat in your meals. So that's going to satiate you throughout the course of the day. So by the time you get home, you're pretty much, you know, you could eat, but also I'm not really that hungry. That's the position you want to be in at the end of the day. So that kind of deals with the hunger side of it. Now, and there's other things, but that's the most common if you notice you're hungry at a certain time of the day. Now, the craving part of it is slightly different. Again, you're going to start with identifying why you're having the craving. Is it something emotional? Did you go through something really stressful throughout the day? And now those stress hormones are leading you to want to deal with that stress by having something sweet or salty. If that's the case, then you got to find better ways. Let me turn this off. You've got to find better ways to deal with your stress. If you know that stress is leading you to crave foods. Is it something that, you know, you're really happy? It's just emotions in general. Whether it be happy emotions or sad emotions, that means you got to find better ways to deal with your emotions than eating your emotions, whether you're happy or whether you're sad, because oftentimes both of those emotions are completely different, but they oftentimes lead to us eating the wrong things. And oftentimes they're not necessarily quote unquote the wrong things. They end up being wrong because we eat too much of them. Like I said, I don't believe in any good, or I should say, yeah, I guess I'll say it, any good or bad foods. I believe that we take foods and we make them quote unquote bad for ourselves and for our goals because we eat too many of them. Now, that's one way of dealing with cravings. But if you just notice that every time at a certain time of the day, you are craving a certain thing, that oftentimes can lead back to a lot of those cravings are just we're not giving our bodies enough throughout the course of the day. For instance, the other day, I was super busy with calls and I didn't really eat a lot during the day. And if you've watched these videos before, you've heard me talk about the fact that I oftentimes have these cravings for stuff that I know I probably shouldn't be eating later in the day. I don't crave these things during the day, but it's always most of the time at the end of the day. So for me, I was sitting at my desk in the other room and I'm on my phone watching, you know, videos on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And I'm literally trying to convince myself that it's okay for me to go downstairs and eat something that I shouldn't be eating. And right now we are at 8 p.m. So this was around the same time. I think was it last night? It might have been last night. And I'm talking myself into it, but I'm talking myself out of it. I'm talking myself into it, but I'm talking myself out of it. It was a craving. I wasn't hungry, but it was something that I hadn't eaten all day and I was craving something sweet. So at the 20 minutes, 30 minutes of me doing this, going back and forth with myself, I was finally like, no, you're not going to go downstairs. And I literally said that to me. No, you're not going to go downstairs. You're going to go in the other room. You're going to go into bed and you're going to go to sleep. And I made that decision and I didn't go downstairs to eat anything. So that was how I oftentimes deal with my cravings, by just being tough on myself and identifying that I'm not really hungry. I just want something, and understanding that I don't need that thing that I want. The world's not going to end. I'm not going to die. I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow and everything is going to be absolutely fine if I don't eat that thing that I'm craving. So again, a lot of times it's identifying why you're having that craving or why you're hungry, and then working back from there. And oftentimes when you identify it, you will come up with the strategy or the solution to fixing that problem. So let me know down below in the comments if these tricks and these tips that I gave my client and that I give all my clients, if any of them helped, if you've used any of them, comment below and let me know about your experience. If you will use any of them, comment below. And if you have any further questions about this topic, comment below. And if you need any help on your fitness journey, click the first link below in the description, fill out the form, and the two of us will figure out what we need to do together to get you from where you're at to where you want to be.